What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here with AC. We are back here for the Gridiron Gamble of week number 11, 2017. We're going to give you our three best bets of the week plus and give you who to bet on, who we really feel you can win some money on here in week number 11. We've been pretty successful the last couple of weeks with getting those correct. So hopefully we could continue the trend here. As we say every week, as I say every week, the NFL seems to get a little bit more clear as the weeks go on. We're seeing who the contenders are, who the pretenders are, and who the teams are that can really, you can put your money on and feel safe with. So week number 11, AC, what are you looking for here in week number 11? Any games that really stood out to you? I know like last week, we really didn't say that there were any games that were like, wow, this was a game that you must take, but we still found a way to make some money last week, so that was good.
Well, yeah, no, I was 4-0 with my 4 picks, and most of the picks, except for one, which was an upset, was Tampa Bay. I had Tampa Bay beating the Jets as one of my picks. They not only covered, but won. And then also I picked 3 big spreads, and the only spread that was a large spread that didn't cover, that was like 7 or higher, was Pittsburgh. But other than that, all the big spreads covered. First, like you had New England covering, you had the Rams covering, which, you know what? The Rams have been almost a lock against the spread, even in double digits the last 3 weeks. This week is going to be really tough for them because I am picking Minnesota to win that game. But the Rams, if you're better, if you've kind of bet along with the Rams, they've covered some big spreads this season. This week, I think it comes down to teams that should be winning these games. And I think with injuries and the season's a bit more clear, that I think you're going to see with my picks that they're going to be a little closer to, the favorites, obviously, because except for one. But at this point in the season, if you're a good team playing a bad team, most of the time, the good team's going to cover.
Yeah, actually, this week, right off the bat, right as soon as Monday hit, I looked at some of these games and I was like, holy crap, like that's a real number. Like I need to take that right now. So this was one of those weeks where I really felt like maybe Vegas is wrong. Usually they're right, but maybe Vegas is wrong. We'll see. But that's what makes us love to bet, because sometimes we're wrong, sometimes we're right, and we love to be right. So this week I have 3 bets and then kind of 2 extras. I think do you have 3 bets and then an extra, or just 3 bets? Or you're on mute.
I would say I have 3 bets, but I'm still comfortable with my 4th. So I'd still say each week I do, like, just for the show's sake, I do have 4 that I'd be more comfortable, and for keeping track of it all, I still go 4 every week. The 3rd one is kind of up in there, but I'm pretty confident with all 4 of the bets I'm going to talk about.
Okay. Well, let's start off with your first bet of the week. Who do you got?
Okay, I got Detroit going into Chicago and winning. They're only favored by 3. They're 5-4 against Chicago. That's, I believe, 3-6. This is one of those times during the season where I think Chicago, hurt themselves by not beating Green Bay, in which probably they should have. Obviously, John Fox challenged a play that ended up hurting him rather than helping him, which was bizarre. But just watching Detroit the last couple weeks, they seem to be somewhat on the right track. They do start slow, but even in that Cleveland game, they still ended up winning by 2 touchdowns. Obviously, Cleveland did help them out a lot too, especially in the red zone with some bonehead plays. But I do think if Detroit wants to stay alive in the NFC North and also maybe push for a playoff spot, this is a must-win. They don't win this game, they have no hope of making the playoffs. And that's why I believe at this point of the season, I do think Chicago has grown a lot, but I would have been more scared if Chicago won last week, which I thought we all thought they were going to. I just like -3 against this team. I think it potentially could be close, but for me, I'm just betting on Detroit because this is a must-win. They have some tough games coming up. If you think they're going to make the playoffs, or at least contend or be in the race, they have to win this one against a mediocre team. And we saw Chicago play at home. I think they're relying too much on the run game, and we still haven't seen Trubisky be able to throw the ball. We'll see what happens, but I'm pretty confident that Detroit should win this game because it's more of a must-win for Detroit than it is Chicago.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have this as one of my like extras. This isn't one of my top three, but I have it in there. The only thing that would really scare me in this game is looking back at some of the previous matchups. I know this is a different year with different teams, but last year it came down to a 3-point game, 20 to 17 for Detroit, and 17-14 for Chicago. So both ways, each was decided by a field goal. Then in 2016, Detroit won by 4. In 2015, Detroit won by 3 in overtime. And then in 2014, they won by 6. So every single one of these games is kind of close. It is a rivalry. It is in Chicago, where Chicago's been a bit better. And I do think that Chicago's defense is good, despite having a little bit of a lackluster performance against Green Bay. But like you said, I think Detroit is the better team. It's only 3 points. And if they're going to make this run to the playoffs, they have to win this game. Like you said, their offense has been playing really well. Matt Stafford is playing great football. Chicago hasn't really faced a guy like him in a little bit. And Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, those guys are on fire. It's just going to be a matter of, can Detroit's defense hold down the run game of Chicago? If they're able to do that, then I think they're able to get a comfortable win here. But you never know with Chicago at home, NFC North divisional game. That's why it's not one of my top 3 bets, but I certainly see where you're going with this one. So
yeah, I see single digits and a 3, whatever. I pushed before, like last or 2 weeks ago with Baltimore, only I think lost by 3, and then so that was just a wash. So 3 points is, I think it's going to be close. So even if I think Detroit, even if they win with a field goal, will be fine. Whatever, take the push. The one thing I will say about Chicago, which is pretty interesting, is they're 3-6, but they're 6-3 against the spread. So I don't think that. But I look at that also, and I'm like, that's not sustainable, in a way, because Vegas is continued, like we're seeing. Vegas doesn't like a 3-6 team being 6-3 against the spread. You know what I mean? So that's why I think we see this lower spread than it should be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think they're starting to figure out, like, okay, the Bears are playing everyone close, that 3 points. So I think maybe this is a week that Vegas is trying to flip things and maybe give Chicago an L against the spread. Who knows? But I did find that interesting that for a team that's 3-6, they're 6-3 against the spread.
All right, my first bet of the week is my New England Patriots, currently -7. I took them already at -6. I think this game is going to be a big win. I think there's going to be a couple of teams this week that have really, I think, clearly set themselves apart as the 2 best teams in football, and I'm betting on both of them this week. The first one being the Patriots. I just don't see how the Raiders are going to stop the Patriots. I think they could stop them once or twice, but I think the Patriots are easily putting up 30 points in this game. This game's in Mexico, which the Oakland Raiders don't have a home field. The Patriots have been on the road practicing in Colorado, ready for the, everything that stadium, that environment has to offer, with the altitude and all that stuff. And the Patriots are used to playing in these games where there's not necessarily a home or an away team. This is a game that is like a Super Bowl atmosphere for the Patriots. They're used to that, obviously. And I just look at this X's and O's. I think the Raiders have only won games against terrible teams and bad defenses. And the Raiders have not beat really one team besides the Chiefs, which is a divisional game. And we've seen how bad the Chiefs defense has been. They beat Miami barely. I think we've seen how terrible Miami has been. I just don't believe in the Raiders defense. I don't think their offense is very consistent. They have decent games here and there, but I think the Patriots actually match up with them decent enough. If the Patriots corners can play the same way that they've been playing, I think that the Raiders will have a tough time really throwing the ball all over the place like they really want to. And I think the Patriots, at the end of the day, they just outpaced the Raiders in a big victory that I could see being a blowout. So that's why I'm taking the Patriots -7 in this game.
Yeah, and the Patriots haven't lost to the Raiders since 2002. So that's been a long time, and that's been 5 games. Yeah, no, I like that, especially anywhere at least 7 or under is decent. I'd always be wary of that half point, that if it's a full 7.5. So obviously you lose off 7. But yeah, if you're confident enough, obviously the Patriots are the far superior team. And, you know, if we see last year Oakland Raiders, which everyone's been saying that maybe this is what they could be, but obviously we haven't seen anything like that except for maybe one game here, one game there. So, but I don't think they are that team the same as last year. So New England should have no problem, especially that offense against that defense. I do think, though, that the Raiders are going to be able to put up some points. It'll be interesting to see because the one maybe X factor that we haven't talked about is Marshawn's probably has some sort of grudge with or some sort of, you know, after that not getting the ball, maybe some sort of revenge that he wants to get on the Patriots. But I think he's lost a step, so I don't think that would be an issue. But I do think that the Patriots offense can score way more points than Oakland and obviously cover the spread.
Yeah, I think also, just to throw this in there, I agree with you. Maybe there's that X factor of Marshawn Lynch. I do think the Patriots need to look out for Jared Cook, who's been playing really well. But Jack Del Rio teams against the Patriots have typically not done very well, specifically against Tom Brady. So I'd just throw that out there as well, as Jack Del Rio usually doesn't have the upper advantage on Bill Belichick, which is hard to with any coach. What's your second bet this week?
My second bet is going to be, I'm going to take KC minus 10.5 against the Giants. KC.
Is this that bet where it's like anybody, like blank minus whatever versus the Giants?
Well, and two, it's the typical Andy Reid after a bye week.
Yeah.
Which, you know, obviously bye weeks don't help every team, which we've seen. But for Andy Reid, it does. Like, it is probably maybe one of the more crazy stats in sports is his record. I think he's only lost like three or four times in 20 seasons after a bye week. I don't know the exact stat, but it's very impressive. I think the Chiefs needed a little break because they obviously were trending downward. The Giants are not good. They've quit on their coach, and as long as that coach stays there, they're going to keep on quitting. I might be a bit worried with 10.5 if the Giants put in a new coach, you know, that first game buzz of playing for someone new. But yeah, no, I like 10.5 KC against the Giants. They need to come out of the bye week and play big. So we'll see what happens, but I do think they easily cover the spread.
I'd agree with you. The stat is 16-2. Andy Reid is after the bye, so that's some pretty good odds there. And the Giants, their defense is terrible. Their offense like they don't have Sterling Shepard this week. So if you were concerned about the Chiefs getting thrown on, it seems less likely now. I mean, who are they going to throw to other than Evan Ingram? So if the Chiefs have a bad defensive performance, again, that's really concerning. So I think you're just taking that Andy Reid's going to have something up his sleeve this week. He's going to fix some of the flaws that pass defense has had in the last couple of weeks. And he's going to have a couple of new wrinkles for that offense and that scheme that he's built for this offense. And maybe he's figured out a way to be less reliant on Kareem Hunt and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, and maybe get a couple of other guys in there making some plays. So I definitely see the Chiefs coming out hard, coming out with a big win. They see how the Patriots are playing. They see how the Steelers are playing, and they definitely need to continue winning and continue playing well going into January when it's going to be big for the Chiefs. So I agree with you. 10.5 doesn't seem like too much against a team that's getting blown out by the 49ers.
Well, yeah, and I'll look at this, like the KC defense has been very subpar, but they've been subpar for the most part against some pretty solid talent, right? Like we'll go to Dallas. They got the Zeke, they got Prescott when that offense was really moving at a great pace. And then you obviously look at against Oakland. Obviously, Amari Cooper had his best game of the season. Derek Carr, it looked like that offense was coming together. So I do think that defense has stepped up against bad offenses. Like just look at that Denver game as an example, which I'm obviously Eli Manning's better than Trevor Siemian, but I do think they just don't have enough weapons. And even Eric I mean, even Ingram can't get it done against that team. So we'll see what happens. But I do think that, yeah, any double digits at this point, especially against a team like the Giants, you take any time, even if it was like any subpar, like decent team against the Giants, you take.
Okay, my second bet of the week is AC's Philadelphia Eagles -6. I actually bet Dylan -18, so we'll see what happens there. But I am very confident in the Eagles this week. I think that the Eagles are the far superior team. I look at their defense versus the Cowboys' offense. Without Zeke, they couldn't run against Atlanta. Now they're facing the best run defense in the league. They're facing one of the top 3 D lines and pass rushes in the league without Tyron Smith. They had a run defender in Adrian Claiborne who knows one pass rushing move, get 6 sacks. And I don't think it will be as bad because I think they'll fix that and kind of, okay, we know that we're going to help this guy now and it'll be a little better and Dak will know and it's at home and this stuff. But at the same time, there's still going to be pressure on Dak. And I don't think the Dallas receivers are going to be able to get it done to the quality that they need to really have Dak rely on them to get open right away. I think that the Eagles secondary can slow them down and, they might make a couple of plays here and there, but I think the Eagles secondary has been pretty good against better receivers. And I think that overall, the Eagles defense is going to dominate this game, and they're probably going to force a couple of turnovers, get a couple of sacks. Then on the other side of the ball, the Eagles might have a little bit of difficulty with the Dallas defensive line because even in last week's game, they were beasting out there against Atlanta. But besides that, the secondary of the Cowboys, I think, is going to have some issues with Zach Ertz, with Alshon Jeffrey, with Nelson Aguilar. And then they got to worry about J.J. and LeGarrette Blount pounding it down your throat. So, and Carson Wentz been playing as an MVP player right now. So I think this game, everything points to the Eagles coming out and destroying the Cowboys, even though it's in Dallas, even though it's an NFC East matchup. I just don't see how Dallas wins this game. I think it's going to be a huge win, and I think it's going to be a statement here after the bye for the Eagles. That's how I feel. Might feel differently. That's how I feel.
No, that's pretty well said. I have that as my game as well. I just think without Zeke, it's going to be really tough for Dallas to win this game. And I think Tyron Smith, no Sean Lee, they haven't done a great job of, hate to like pile it on Dallas. They haven't done a great job of drafting because they've known, just one sec here. I'm at my parents' house. So
all right, no Sean Lee too. Like you brought that up.
I was just gonna say about the drafting because it's a good point. They've known Sean Lee's had injury problems for a long time.
They did draft Jalen Smith, but the problem with Jalen Smith,
and he's huge. He can't do what anything near like.
Can I be honest with you, AC?
Yeah.
Jalen Smith's not good.
No, I've never even seen anything. Has he even played? Like
he can't, since his knee injury, man, he hasn't been good at the NFL level because he's too slow to keep up. Like maybe they won't see that this week because the Eagles don't necessarily have a running back. Like they don't have Darren Sproles anymore. Like if Darren Sproles was playing in this game, like they wouldn't be able to cover him at all. Like I don't see one running back that's good at like route running, pass catching that Jalen Smith can cover in the NFL right now. He can't go left to right. He can't go side to side. His knees are messed up. Like if you run at him, he'll hit you. But like besides that, he's not great in coverage. I think that's a big reason why Sean Lee is missed so much because the guy right below him is not good.
Yeah. The one thing I guess for a lot of Eagles haters like to say is, well, look what happened to the Eagles after a bye week last year. But the one thing it was, yes, they were 3-0, but the bye week was week 4. This team was still so fresh. Like they had a rookie quarterback. You know what I mean? They didn't really have a running game. Like this team was so fresh. Like it's not. You can't compare last season's Eagles to this one. But what I will say is Darby's coming back, who I think was very good in that first week against the Redskins. Yeah, and I think he was very good at that first week against the Redskins. until his ankle injury, which happened, I think, in the third quarter. But he was good. And I think the way that these other guys have played, you're going to see a little rotation there because, Patrick Robinson's having his best season probably since he was a first or second year player in the league. He's been very good. Jalen Mills, I think people don't talk about Jalen Mills enough, being a 7th-round pick and in his second season and to be able to do what he's doing. I think Jim Schwartz finds these guys that know how to play his system. And, as much as I love this offense, to me, as an Eagles fan, this defense is almost 1,000 times more fun to watch sometimes because they really create the momentum. And then obviously Wentz does this thing. I do agree with you. I think those Dallas corners are no-name young. Jordan Lewis, who was in Michigan. They got that other guy. I just think they're too young to be able to compete. Yes, the pass rush is going to be good, but we saw last week that, you could say that or 2 weeks ago, you could say Denver is good. Hasn't been playing well, but they still dominated the line of scrimmage against the Denver Broncos, and Von Miller was non-existent. So obviously these guys are a bit younger, probably a bit quicker. We'll see what happens. And then I'll give credit to Vitae at this point has been pretty solid filling in at left tackle, that they didn't even move Lane Johnson over. And I think that the elusiveness of Carson Wentz helps them. But yeah, it should be more than a 5-point game, in my opinion, because I think we've seen with Dak is he can't do it on his own. He's not the talent level of Russell Wilson. He's a very good quarterback, but he needs other pieces to make his game better in the pass game. And let's be honest, Dez Bryant has missed a step. Terrence Williams stinks. And I think Cole Beasley going against what they do is they play press, and Malcolm Jenkins is going to be on Beasley most of the game. I just think there's not a lot of guys that you're super scared to play anymore on this Dallas. The one guy was Zeke. And I just don't think it's that they're not scared of Alfred Morris running for 150 yards.
He's got burst.
He's got burst. And it's going to be interesting. But we got everyone back, too, because Ertz is back. Everyone's healthy. I think
my fantasy lineup applauds that.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm with you, too. That is one of my games.
All right. What is your third game?
Well, I guess I'll go with that. Philly was my third game, so I'll just go right into my last game. I'm taking Atlanta plus 2.5 against Seattle. I think that might go up or it might stay the same, but I'll still take them. I'm probably going to take a money line here.
I think it's going to go down. I think it's going to get close to even by the game when the game starts.
So I guess if you can get it at 2.5 right now, I'd do that. Looking at against Seattle, just too many injuries. I think Atlanta is a team playing with some sort of momentum, beating Dallas. And I think if you look at Atlanta, they haven't really had a win like this that they can, I guess, they beat Green Bay early on the season?
They killed Green Bay, and they've killed Dallas.
Yeah.
But their only really embarrassing loss was against New England.
Yeah.
I don't think they had another bad loss.
But they just haven't had any good wins really besides those two.
Yeah. And they beat Detroit, but they should have lost that game.
Yeah. I just think they go into Seattle. I think we're getting to a point now is Seattle can't lose any more guys. They have zero run game, or what? Or Kev said they have this rookie preseason running back that's going to come.
Yeah, he was their second best running back in the preseason.
No, he said he was the second best running back in the preseason out of the whole NFL.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
McKissick?
No, it wasn't even McKissick. It was
some other guy.
No, it's like a guy no one's heard of, and he's apparently Bo Jackson.
Yeah, but yet he didn't start over Fat Eddie and Thomas. I've had 1,000 chances Rawls.
Yeah. No, and process.
I don't know. Cam Chancellor's out. He's out for the year.
No safeties, man.
Sherman is out for the year. They have Earl Thomas is not playing, I don't think.
There is no, I don't think he is too. So there is no Legion of Boom. Literally, there's not one guy.
If Julio Jones doesn't get 200 yards in this game.
Does he? Even Sanu's been good this season. Hardy,
Hooper too.
Hooper, they have two good running backs. I don't think Freeman's playing, but I think
Freeman's not playing.
But Coleman's going to be decent enough. And I don't know. I just think I think that pass rush has a bit, and I think that's what's going to come down to is just all they have to do is just contain Russell Wilson, because this I think is going to be a shootout.
And they're fast.
Like, I think this is going to be like, if there's an over and under, I think if it's probably like 55, I'm saying like there's going to be 60, maybe 60 points scored in this game. Yeah, no, I just think that Seattle can't keep on doing this, and they have been doing it to a certain extent against bad teams. You know what I mean? Like, they're winning barely against bad teams.
Honestly, bro, I don't see how it's the shootout for Seattle. I guess I've been a bigger fan of Atlanta's defense than a lot of you guys, but
no, and I was a fan last year too, and I do like them. I'm just saying, like, if it's 55, I'm saying it's either going to be 30-30 or something, or 32-28, or I could see Atlanta putting up like 40 points, like 40-17 or 35-17 to get up to that 50-point range. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be a lot of points scored. And we've seen on Monday nights, there's been a lot of points getting put up on Monday nights recently.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, you look at the Atlanta matchup defensively versus Seattle. First off, Seattle couldn't run versus the high school team. So, like, they don't need to worry about that. Atlanta's weakness has been against teams that can be balanced and can run the ball and then work from the run and then pass. And because they're weaker against the run than they are against the pass. Against the pass, I look at this matchup, and I think Trufant has been a blessing for their team. There's not been a lot of people talking about him, but he'll be on Baldwin the whole game, and he's been tough. And their other corners, like the younger guys, Alfred has been good. We know how good he was like in the playoffs last year. He's been good this year. I think their corners match up decent enough against the receivers of Seattle, who two of them only make one play a game anyways. The issue is going to be how do they try and cover a Jimmy Graham? But they've done a decent job against tight ends this year overall with like Keanu Neal and who's their linebacker? The young guy, I always forget his name.
45, Deion Jones?
Yeah, Deion Jones. Yeah. So they have a lot of speed in the secondary in order to and in weird like body like freaks in the secondary that they can cover guys. And then in the D line, they're really fast. So they're going to be able to contain Russell Wilson without really devoting a guy to spy him.
Exactly.
Because they're so fast that, like, when we see against Aaron Rodgers, they don't really spy him or do anything. They're just so fast that they're able to catch Aaron Rodgers, and that's why the Packers struggle with him. So I think Russell Wilson's going to have that same issue. We saw that in the playoffs last year. So this defense of Seattle, I don't think it's the same. Without Cliff Averill, we've seen their pass rush hasn't been as successful. And with those guys out in the secondary, it's going to be a huge loss. I mean, they still have the linebackers and stuff, but Atlanta should be able to pass the ball with some success if they have a decent enough offensive game plan. So I totally agree with you. I think Atlanta is going to win this game.
Well, and like you sent the tweet, showed us the tweet with like Sherman's stats, like since 2011 or whatever. It's insane how no one goes that side. Teams would go in there and only play one side of the field. Now, against, like, say what you want about Matt Ryan, he's having a down year. He's still a guy that can look at the whole field, and if something's not there, can look completely the other side. Normally, even good quarterbacks won't do that. They'll take like 2 or 3 routes on the other side of the field away from Sherman and just look there. I think now this spreads the quarterback's eyes to everything now because you're not afraid to throw it a 50-50 ball against Shaq Griffin. You know what I mean? Against the McDougal. You're not scared anymore to throw these 50-50 balls where – with Sherman, even a 50-50 ball wasn't 50-50. You know what I mean? It was still 75% in Sherman's favor. So I think now it changes everything for them. And I don't know. I know there's a lot of Seattle homers out there that still believe this is a Super Bowl winning team and everything's great. But what was that stat? Percent of yards from scrimmage comes from their quarterback.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing in a way.
And also factor in how Dan Quinn is the coach of Atlanta. He knows this defense better than they know it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, true. And like I think he's going to give, obviously, words to wisdom to Sarkisian maybe, and maybe make Sarkisian look better than he should this season especially. So we'll see.
Okay, my third bet is the Minnesota Vikings -2.5 against the Rams. I've been this guy, and I've been like the negative Nancy when it comes to the Rams this season. But that's just the way it's got to be, because I just don't believe the Rams are like this Super Bowl contending team. They've beat a lot of piss poor teams. They've beat up on. I just want to check their schedule again just to get my point across.
It's not great.
And the thing about the Rams is every time they've played a good defensive front, they've struggled to score. And they're playing the Vikings, which is not good. Like the Redskins early in the year, the Rams scored 20. All right, they lost that game 27-20. Redskins don't have the strongest defensive front, but when they're healthy, they're pretty good. They struggled to score against Seattle when they're healthy. Against the Jaguars, they scored 2 defensive touchdowns. Jared Goff only had like 100 yards passing against the Jaguars.
Yeah.
A lot of people forget that the Rams scored like special teams touchdowns in that game. They beat the Cardinals by a lot, the Texans by a lot, the Giants by. They've had easy games. They struggled against the 49ers. They have one nice win, I would say, like one like really nice win against the Cowboys. But I don't even but like I don't know.
And that was still with Zeke, and Zeke didn't run, but that was like still a lot of stuff was going on. I would say that was a quality win, but that was
and they were losing that one.
Yeah.
So, and this game, the Vikings, Case Keenum is playing great football right now. He's making plays. He's not the reason why this team is losing games. He's the reason why this team is actually winning some games here. The Vikings defense is good. We all know that. And I think that even if Sean McVay has some plays and some scheme to score points, I don't think the Rams are going to score over 20 in this game. The Vikings are at home. They've yet to surrender 20 points at home this year. And their offense with Diggs, with Thielen, they're on a roll. Rudolph, I think they'll be able to pass the ball against this Rams defense, who yet again has not really played a great offense. And every time they have, they've given up a ton of points. 27 to the Redskins, 30 to the Cowboys. They get 39 to Brian Hoyer. And then they played Eli, injured Carson Palmer, the Texans with Savage, and Blake Bortles. Like that, I don't know. And we know the Seahawks offense is not good, especially when it comes to playing the Rams. So for me, I look at this game. I think the Rams are a pretender. I think the Vikings are a contender. And that's why I'm taking the -2.5. They're at home. They play amazing at home. And I think they'll be able to force a couple turnovers from Jared Goff, who I think is going to be out of his element. And I think that their offense is going to score enough to win this game by a decent margin.
Yeah, no, I don't mind it at all. I'm the same way. I'm not taking. I haven't said this. Well, this wasn't one of my bets, but I am also in my spread pool where I pick every game in the spread. I took Minnesota with the points, and I also took Minnesota to win straight up. I agree with you. I think it's a little different for Goff traveling to a place where, like, Vikings fans are stoked right now. That's going to be super loud against 7-2. I don't think he's really been in a situation like that as well, where you're traveling to a team where you have the exact same record. You know what I mean? You're the underdog and you're playing on the road. So I think that's going to factor in a lot. And I still think that Minnesota Vikings defense, I think, let up a bit last week. Obviously, we've seen with Cousins, he's able to score points when it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like, there was chances they could come back, but like we've seen with Cousins, like when nothing's really on the line, he seems to put up like tear defenses apart. He's done it to the Eagles. He did it to Minnesota in that game. But like early in the game, he looked really bad and that defense played well, right? And then it started, when Minnesota was up a lot, that's when Cousins, when Cousins is down by like 20, that's when Cousins seems to put up all his numbers. Not garbage time because he gets them back into it, but still not good enough. So I do think that Vikings, maybe their Vikings defense, that probably was their worst performance last week, but they still showed that they're a great defense.
And that was on the road.
Yeah, true. And just imagine at home, I think that crowd's pumped, the new stadium. I think it's a different feel right now in Minnesota. And I just look at the defense and the way Keenum's playing. He's not really making mistakes. They seem to be able to run the ball. They have all their receivers going. Good tight end, good offensive line. I think they're just more of a complete team at this point, but we'll see. I think it's going to be it's a tough game to bet on because they're both 7-2, but yeah. I do favor Minnesota in this one more. But Vegas, the guys that are betting are actually favoring the Rams a bit more, just by about 5%.
Interesting. I just don't know. Like I
think
just
that's Rams fandom. You know what I mean?
I've never bought into the Rams yet, so we'll see. This game's big, but I'm willing to take the chance on the home team here and the team that I think is better. So, did you? Yeah, you went with your last game already, right?
Yeah.
Okay. My last game, I already had Detroit, but you took that one. So I actually have Denver. I know this is crazy. -2.5 against the Bengals. They're at home. I think the Broncos are going to win this game. And when it comes down to it, I see similarities in the Broncos and in the Bengals. I think that both teams have good receivers with quarterbacks that can't really get them the ball right now. Their offensive lines are lackluster. Their run games are not very good. And usually when it comes to in Denver, even though that New England, put a pounding on them and the Eagles beat them, and that was in Philly, but even though the Eagles beat them pretty bad and New England beat them pretty bad, I think this is that game where the Broncos have a good game. I think they bounce back here. This is Vance Joseph's career on the line here as a head coach. I think if he loses this game to the Bengals at home, I think he's going to be fired. He's going to be done. And I think this is a game where Derek Wolfe, after that Patriots game, said how embarrassing it was. I think that team's going to be motivated. They're going to come out, and I think they're going to win this game at least by 2.5, at least by a field goal. So I think CJ Anderson, and when their offense has been going, they've been able to run it okay. They were able to run it okay against the Patriots. Sanders seems to be playing well. Thomas seems to be playing good enough. And I think they'll be able to, do enough on offense. But I think their defense is going to dominate this game. I just don't see a lot that Cincinnati's really doing offensively to completely expose what the Broncos, like the Patriots were able to, like the Eagles were able to. And I think that, at Mile High, it's always a tough place to win at. And I think the Bengals are just not a good team. They've only really beat bad teams. And although I've been kind of that guy that's had the hope for the Bengals, I think this is just a game here where the Broncos are going to come out motivated and take it. So I'm going to go with the Broncos just on the spread basically being that they only need to win by a field goal for you to win. So I'm going to take the Broncos here in a must-win for Vance Joseph.
Yeah, no, I picked the Broncos with the spread, and when I pick every game with the spread, and I pick them to win this game. I do think after getting blown out 2 games in a row against good talent, like the top 2 teams in the NFL, I think this is a statement game for them. Obviously, I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs or anything, but I don't think Cincinnati's very good. That I think their offense is going to be able to move the ball a bit more. I think they're going to run the ball a bit more, and then I think that defense is going to be able to step up. Just please, Broncos, put Harris on AJ Green. I don't care if he's a slot. Just don't have Talib on AJ Green, and that's all.
Well, I mean, they don't really have anyone besides AJ Green.
No, not at all. Not at all. You stop AJ Green and you stop that team. And I think it's going to be tough. Obviously, we saw the Eagles run on them, but besides that Eagles game,
the Bengals haven't ran on anyone. Not one team.
Yeah, and no. They've always been in limbo though. They draft Mixon and they have 2 running backs that have played the last 4 seasons with like little to no success. So it's gonna be interesting. But yeah, I'd take that for sure. I think Denver needs this more than anything, especially in front of their crowd. And I like that defense is still decent. I just think we saw them play against the top 2 teams, and that's what you're gonna see.
All right. So that's the Gridiron Gamble, week number 11. Weird day in the comments today. Not a lot going on in the comments.
Yeah, normally we get a lot more, but I guess usually it's getting to like holiday,
You know what the thing is, AC? I think they're usually prepared for us to be like in the middle of the night. So like they wait for us at the middle of the night, and it's like.
Well, I guess we have been
today
doing more like 3 or 4, right?
Yeah. And Kill'em Boys is mocking us here, saying our ratings are down. Actually, our ratings have been up, but this video is weird. So anyways, Hope you guys catch it on the read.
Well, people don't want to make any money. You think our ratings will be up because technically we've been just making people money. If they were listening to our bets the last 2 weeks,
yeah, I know, right?
Would have made a lot of money.
I know. So, anyways, listen to our bets this week. Hopefully, we're not overconfident, but I'm more confident this week than I was last week.
Yeah, so, which is strange because I wasn't that confident last week, but I was 4-0. So we'll see. You never know.
Yeah. You never know what this thing, this world of the NFL, like anything can happen. People are talking like the Browns can win this week, which apparently it's supposed to snow in Cleveland. If there's ever a game that the Cleveland Browns can win, it might be this week.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, never bet on the Browns.
Never.
So that's just my thing. But Killing Boys, what's going on? What's going on, Arian? What's going on, Chauncey? Just want to say what's up, and thanks guys for watching. It's Mitch, AC. AC's got to go watch his college Canadian football. Yeah. If you guys ever watch that.
Semifinals, man.
Anyways, it's Mitch, AC. Bet on these games. Have some fun. Good luck to your teams. Good luck to your fantasy teams, and peace out.